What matters more in a pair of TWS? Audio or like convenience? Most people say audio. I mean, it's an audio product, but I say convenience. But see, the problem here is we probably want both, right? And that's where this comes in. This is the Sounpeats H3, and honestly, Sounpeats is one of the few brands that I can recommend without actually thinking twice, which stems from me daily driving the Air 4 Pro for almost 3 years now with zero random disconnects, ANCs that survives Philippine traffic, and sound that's perfect for actual real-world commutes that's not hiding behind the comfort of a private vehicle or a not so busy street. But here's the thing, the H3 isn't just another good value TWS. Matter of fact, they're quite expensive at an SRP of $150 or 1,000 pesos when not on sale. So thank you Sounpeats for actually sending these out, because I wouldn't be able to actually test them if you haven't. But of course, I'm no shill and they're pretty chill with that. So keeping that in mind, I have 3 things to help you decide if it's actually worth the price for you. Sound and whether it lives up to the hype. Features, especially and specifically the ANC and microphones. Then, the make or break factor that almost no reviews actually cover, but they are pretty evident the moment that you use these, or at the very least when I use them. Let's talk first about sound quality. I have to ask, like when you're commuting, do you hear all of the minor nuances of sound? Do you have to increase the volume or the gain to nearly 100%? And what parts of the music do you actually want to hear more of? Personally, I want more bass when commuting, specifically because of how much noise actually lives in the lower frequencies when commuting. I'm talking trucks, cars, trains, and buses, and with all of those things in mind, I say these handles bass pretty well without actually distorting, or as we like to call it, muddying up the sound, which translates to the bass being impactful and heavy, but not too much nor too little, at least while in commutes. And I say that because using these with the default setting indoors, well, I found them to be too much in terms of sub-bass, mid-bass, and the lower mids, which isn't balanced out by the treble. I mean, just looking at the frequency response, you can immediately see that these are, well, bass cannons to say the least, and they're designed to prioritize, again, the commuters just like me. Now, while we're on the topic of the treble and the high end, you don't get much of it unless you download the Sounpeats app and play around with EQ, where I personally like to use the treble enhancement preset while indoors just to compensate for the lacks of mids and treble. Meaning, out of the box, these are perfect for those who will primarily use these for commuting and such, or for those who will consider themselves as, well, bass heads, and are generally not for treble heads or users that prefer a more balanced type of sound. But that doesn't mean that people like us are actually left out, because the custom graphical EQ allows a plus minus 6 dB adjustment for the 50, 160, 350, 800, 1K, 2K, 5K, 8K, 12K, and I believe 70 hertz region, so total of 9 total frequencies that you can adjust, where you have to make an account to sadly adjust it in the Sounpeats app, and it isn't as good as a proper 10-band parametric EQ, but hey, it gives you mostly what you want. That said, however, because again, these are made with commuters and commuting in mind, hearing all of the minor nuances of a song isn't really the priority, despite having a single dynamic driver for the bass and the dual balance or armature drivers for the mids and the treble, which could in theory provide a more analytical and cleaner sound, since BAs are known for that, but it is quite hindered by the Himalayas of the bass that they've added, which after a few days and weeks of using them, yeah, bass. Then on top of all of that, depending on the phone that I use plus the ANC settings I have turned on, I have to either put them at the max volume or be alright with not hearing too much of the sound, because there's no real gain controls present on the app. Now, on the topic of ANC settings, these have 4 different settings depending on the situation you're in. But before we get there, tell me if you think the H3 is a good purchase for you specifically, if you dislike or like Sounpeats as a brand, and subscribe since you're so close to 2,000 subs. Alright, features. I want to talk first about the ANC and the mics, since that is where these truly shine. For the mic test, here's how they sound like in commutes and in a busy street.
Hello, this is Sounpeats H3 while in public transport. This is Sounpeats H3 while in public transport. Hello, this is when walking next to a very busy street. Sounpeats H3 Mic Test 1, 2, 3.
And here's how they sound like while wearing a helmet outdoors.
Mic Test 1, 2, 3. Rinig ka? Ayun, okay.
The mics here make me happy, like very happy, because if you're getting this on sale, the price is actually quite close to something like the Moondrop Golden Ages, and for that price, the 3 mics on each earpiece wipes the floor against those in terms of quality. Then, remember my 3 videos for like the TWS in this channel? These ones, yeah, people always ask what I'd recommend them, and like I always tell them to either save up more for something like, again, the Air 4 Pro, which frequently, by the way, goes on sale for like 40% off, or purchase something like the BT20 Pro if sound quality is really all they care about, because cheaper TWSs really don't have the capability to provide ANC and the features like that they promise, for that matter, properly, due to their limited budget, where things like the H3 practically reject wind noise even while I'm seated like this, all while being almost always on sale for a price that's, again, not much more than the Moondrop Golden Ages. Then, on top of all that, I said they have settings for the ANC, where you get the adaptive, indoor, outdoor, and outdoor transportation, where you can just leave it at, well, adaptive, since they're pretty much gonna block out a good 90% of road noise. Then on top of that, the transparency mode, which is like just a long press away on the left earbud, is actually usable. Then moving on to reliability and connection, these have a proper LDAC implementation, which means they're still not gonna be lossless, but it offers near lossless sound without the random disconnects or the feeling of like a compression and such. And on top of all that, it also has aptX lossless, which isn't really going to be a feature that's available for everyone, since this is a Qualcomm feature and you'll need a Qualcomm device with the Qualcomm chip if you want to use said feature. However, did you think I was done with the features? I'm not done. The build on these is very light at around like 6 grams. Then the housing is extremely comfortable at the height of 22.5 millimeters, top width and taper at 17 and 8.4 millimeters respectively, depth of around 14.3 millimeters, and a lip diameter of around like 5.9 to 6 millimeters, on top of the IPX5 rating, so you can use these while it's raining, while going on like walks and runs, since they're also like made out of resin, so humidity won't be too much of an issue. And then in terms of the battery life, I got 4 hours while at a volume of 76% with LDAC turned on, and roughly around like 6 hours and 40 minutes when using SBC, where the case can actually recharge these from 0 to 100 about 3 or 4 times, and it's gonna do that in mostly under an hour. Then there's the 5 ear tips at extra small, small, medium, large, and extra large sizes, which would already be good, but of course, they have more. They have fast charge support that got me around like an extra hour and a half of use after a 10-minute charge. 2-device connection, which means that like if say this is connected to both your phone and your laptop, if you get a call on your phone, it'll switch over seamlessly. There's also a Find My type of functionality, which uses a built-in maps feature to tell you where they're last placed, with a like play sound functionality to let you hear their exact location. There's also a game mode for low latency connectivity. And to wrap up this beast of a list for functionality is going to be the finicky touch control that I can't even like properly use even after 2 weeks of constant use. This is something that not a whole lot of reviews actually tackle, which is an issue that can't easily be fixed by firmware update, since, well, the touch controls rely more on hardware, and if they make it too sensitive, touches will be a common occurrence when you try to reposition them. ANC could also be potentially nauseating, since there's a pressure feel when you turn them on, but that's not even the worst offender. Because, you see, like, there's no head tracking feature for the Sounpeats H3, right? Yet somehow, someway, when I use these with Hibi Music on my Samsung A36, tilting my head on either left or right somehow scooches over the sound over to the left if I tilt my head to the left, and to the right if I tilt my head to the right, which is annoying because I see no way to turn them off. I tried it with Spotify, I tried it with YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and so on, but it doesn't go away. The same thing also happens when I actually use my Samsung Note 10, which is weird since I've tried resetting them to factory settings, but no dice. Now, I don't know if this is just an issue with both my phones plus the A55, S22 Ultra, and the iPad Air of my mom, sister, and dad respectively, but I think it's worth mentioning since this is something that I don't even have control over. On top of that, though it is better than the Moondrop 2.0, the Sounpeats app is quite bad, I'm not gonna lie, and the faceplate gets scratched easily since they are made of resin or plastic. That said, the H3 is a comfortable, versatile, perfect for commutes type of product and is something that I can genuinely call as a proper premium TWS with all of the features that I need, where I'm confident in giving them a rating of B+. What? You thought it was gonna be higher? I mean, sure, I like the sound, the comfort, and the IPX5 rating is generally good, but the head track thing is just so damn annoying. The app is buggy as hell, and again, the touch controls, which would be actually alright if these doesn't cost $150, where I'd only really recommend that you buy these during like sales and never on full price, using of course my link in the description. Alright, once again, thank you Sounpeats for sending these out for review. Again, that's been the Sounpeats H3. My name is Charles, and goodbye.